Welcome to Gameplay Learn. I'm your host, Anwar Andres Lequerica. In this episode, we'll talk about video games that will teach you how to strengthen your brain and your vagina. We'll talk about a simulation that puts you in the shoes of a Syrian war refugee. We'll talk about Riot Games' new 30-person psychology research lab. We'll cover a new dating simulator that features characters with disabilities. We'll review the wonderful research of digital media and learning scholar Crystle Martin on all the learning happening on pro wrestling forums like WWE. We'll also talk about virtual reality tools to teach better driving and foreign languages, and much more. We end this episode with our game of the month, Gone Home, and we'll review curriculum used to teach the game in schools. Thanks for listening, and thanks to all our partners and collaborators for the help. Games Learning Society, Game Lab at American University, the K20 Center at the University of Oklahoma, the Games Network at CUNY, and the Entertainment Technology Center at Carnegie Mellon. Now the news. Let's talk about using games to become more empathetic towards others. One kind of tool being used is the walk in another person's shoes simulation. Harvard is researching this kind of simulation and created one using Unity, where there's a conflict between a park ranger and a golf course owner who share land but disagree over how to use it. A student plays by assuming both roles and getting to see each character's points of view. Results from the Harvard simulation show that people who experience it develop more empathy towards others and are more willing to compromise than people just reading about the disagreement between the characters. A new study, co-authored by Jeremy Bailenson, who leads the Stanford Virtual Reality Lab, shows that using virtual reality elicits greater empathy, favorable attitudes, and helping towards people with disabilities compared to traditional perspective taking, which relies on imagination to put yourself in another person's shoes. Journalists are now creating these walk in another person's shoes simulations to report on things like the suffering of Syrian refugees and other stories. Opaque Multimedia has created the Virtual Dementia Experience, which uses virtual reality to simulate the effects of dementia in a virtual environment, so that cognitively intact people can gain an appreciation of the issues confronting people with dementia. Then there are games that use their story to teach about the consequences of not showing empathy for others, and reward you for showing empathy through your game choices. For example, there's a nice app-based game called High School Story. Think Farmville, but you build a high school and you foster happy students, while also controlling what your main character says to the other students. By choosing how to respond to other students through dialogue prompts, you can show empathy or be mean, and High School Story characters will somewhat realistically react to your kindness or meanness. A company called Cognito that I saw at the Games for Change Festival 2 years back has a bunch of really nice simulations to train staff and teachers on showing empathy and supporting LGBTIA students, veterans with PTSD, and other populations. It's being used in a ton of places. Then there are games like Gone Home that help create empathy in us for others by telling us their stories, what their lives are like. In Gone Home, we are exposed to the lives and memories of characters enduring heartbreak, discrimination, loneliness, professional difficulties. Then there's also games that kind of take the opposite approach, showing and having us experience meanness and bullying. One of these is called Sissy Fight, an online multiplayer game where you bully and get bullied by other middle schoolers in the most infantile and sinister of ways. The experience of being bullied might demonstrate why it's so horrible and why it's important to have empathy for others experiencing it. Let's review a bunch of projects where games are being used to improve people's health. There's a device that you insert into your vagina to work out your internal muscles that help with bladder control and to have better orgasms. The device is called SCEA and is synchronized to a game on your phone, and you control your game character by squeezing your Kegel muscles. There's a number of games to teach bioinformatics, and there's also games to further bioinformatics research. Think games like Fold It. One of these games that uses crowdsourcing to advance scientific research is a game created by British cancer researchers called Reverse the Odds. It's a really fun game where you're helping cure cancer by analyzing real data as part of the game mechanics. Apple Watch ships in April, and there's going to be a number of gamified uses for it. Ohio State University researchers have created a Kinect-based game to treat multiple sclerosis and rehabilitate stroke victims. There's also a new game being used in Spain to teach road safety. And of course, last but not least, the International Meeting for Simulation in Healthcare was held in New Orleans last month, and a number of products were given awards, including a game-based simulation to complement face-to-face medical education developed by the University of Texas. Go to our website for the full list of winners and all the projects we just mentioned. There's new research from Florida State University on the cognitive benefits of playing Portal 2 with regards to problem-solving, spatial skill, and persistence. In other games research news, Riot Games, the creator of League of Legends, has built an in-house psychology lab of 30 researchers working in game design, statistics, and data science to devise social psychology experiments within the game. So the lab runs experiments to test modifications of League of Legends meant to reduce bullying and make the game a more enjoyable social experience. There's two really interesting dating games that I recently played that simulate romance and practical issues related to romance. They are both more like interactive stories and are fun to play if you like romance media. The first is called Long Story, and it contains both hetero and LGBTIA dating options. The second game is Katawa Shoujo. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but it's the closest I could get. It's a crowdsourced build anime-style romance game about teenagers with disabilities. Katawa Shoujo contains some sex scenes, which I think is great since some teenagers have sex in real life, and it's good to have their stories also reflected. But if you feel like that might be too risque for your students, the scenes can be turned off. Minecraft is this generation's SimCity, a construction game of immense popularity that simultaneously entertains and leads to enormous amounts of learning. As Professor James Paul G. has pointed out, while learning happens within games, there's also learning around games. Learning happens inside of Minecraft while playing, and then players go read guides on how to build interesting things inside the game. Millions of these published guides have been sold, making Minecraft one of the most successful literacy teaching tools in the past few years. There's other types of learning happening around Minecraft. For example, there's a TEDCrunch article on setting up a Minecraft server using this credit card-sized computers called the Raspberry Pi. All this learning happening around a game like Minecraft is referred to as Big G Games learning. We can extend this concept to other media like movies and TV shows and look for types of Big M learning. One example of Big M learning is happening in the forums of entertainment wrestling TV shows, so WWE. Researcher Crystle Martin at the Digital Media and Learning Hub at UC Irvine released an amazing report documenting how fans of the wrestling shows are active participants in online wrestling forums, where they analyze WWE storylines, learn how to respectfully present or challenge a hypothesis or argument on current wrestling drama, write and critique their own fantasy wrestling matches, and produce videos with fictional wrestling characters they came up with. Most of the forum participants learn how to do all these things as part of their engagement with entertainment wrestling shows. Crystle Martin's report is terrific and beautifully written. Just go read it and see the awesome learning happening thanks to the most unlikely TV show. Another interesting example of learning happening around a piece of media was an online course that used the Walking Dead TV series to teach public health, math, physics, and a few other subjects. The course was launched 2 years ago by a multidisciplinary team at UC Irvine and had 65,000 participants. I took it and I thought it was pretty great. The Walking Dead TV show also has a companion video game created by Telltale Games that is very good and pushes the boundaries of game narrative and storytelling. Plus, we have to remember that the TV show and the game are based on the Walking Dead comic books. So there's so many avenues for learning literacy, science, art, game design just from this one piece of entertainment media. Virtual reality continues to boom, with ever more hardware and software developers joining the industry. from startups to tech giants, creating everything from headsets to face scanning software to body movement trackers. Virtual reality usually refers to headsets that allow you to see only what's being shown inside the headset, while augmented reality usually refers to lenses like Google Glass that put virtual objects on top of the real world. Although more and more these distinctions between virtual and augmented reality seem to be blurring. Microsoft announced new augmented reality glasses called HoloLens. Valve and HTC have partnered up to launch their own virtual reality headset called Vive. Sony is developing its headset called Morpheus. Samsung has already released an early version headset called Gear VR and is launching a content platform called Milk VR, which it hopes will become the YouTube of virtual reality. A next-generation version of Second Life is being developed to take advantage of virtual reality and graphics innovations of the past few years. The current version of Second Life is already Oculus supported. Toyota has an Oculus Rift app that it's showing at auto shows that uses virtual reality to demonstrate the consequences of distracted driving. There's a surgery-related virtual reality training developed by Conquer Mobile. There's virtual reality language tutoring being developed by a startup called Learn Immersive, where you go into a virtual model of a foreign city or location and practice a language with a live tutor guiding your companion avatar. A company called Runtastic has teamed up with Oculus to develop virtual reality workouts. There's also a startup called C-Space that's created a display and accompanying augmented reality lenses that let students do things like view and interact with a 3D model of a heart. Southern Methodist University has developed a virtual reality assertiveness training for teen girls to reduce sexual victimization. The list goes on and on. We really recommend a new organization called Upload VR, which is a great source of news for virtual reality. Just to clarify, we don't accept money from anybody to endorse or cover anything on the show, but we really like Upload VR. We tend to follow their site and their Twitter feed since it's very informative. They also organize these wonderful expos where you can test out the latest virtual reality products from all the different innovators. There was one recently at South by Southwest and one in San Francisco, which I attended, and there are upcoming ones in New York, LA, and London. Our game of the month is Gone Home, the very popular indie game by the Fulbright Company. You play a 20-year-old girl who, after spending a year backpacking across Europe in 1995, arrives home, but your family's vanished, and you have to figure out what happened in the year you were gone. Gone Home deals with LGBTIA issues, with the challenges and compromises and disappointments of adulthood, the nature of sexual desires, love, and commitment. I enjoyed every moment of Gone Home, including learning about each family member's life through the objects in the house. A teacher called Paul Darvasi created a 2-month-long curriculum around Gone Home for his literature class. Students bring their laptops to school, and he provides them with codes to download the game. Students are given a few assignments to do while they play Gone Home. One is completing a spreadsheet with demographic information on the game's characters. Another activity is preparing a presentation on one of 5 major themes in the game. Students must also write and post a review of Gone Home on a review site like Metacritic or on YouTube. Check out his website, ludiclearning.org, for the entire curriculum. I love his Gone Home curriculum and would adapt it in the following ways. 1, I would get rid of the spreadsheet assignment, since filling it out while you play seems disruptive to game immersion and flow. 2, instead of making students choose the theme early on and have to wonder as they look at each object in the game whether it's related to that theme, which would also be somewhat disruptive to immersion, I would allow students to play the game all the way through and then ask them to think of a theme or topic of interest within the game to give a short presentation on, and only give them theme ideas if they can't come up with any. 3, definitely give students the option to write a review or create any other type of creative media inspired by the game. Drawings, poems, alternative endings. I also think we need to start building online courses with these games curricula. Kind of like the Walking Dead course, since most teachers are not going to have time to read 7 essays on how to implement Gone Home. So we need to make it easy for them. Having an online course that gives students the game, the assignments, forums, the grading would help streamline implementation for teachers. Congratulations, Fulbright Company and teacher Paul Darvasi on an amazing job. We have come to the end of the show. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon. Feel free to check out our Twitter feed. We post a ton of information on job openings and upcoming events. If you have any news tips or just something you think we should cover on our next episode, you can send it to us through our contact form on our website in the About Us section. Thanks again. Take care.